Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the burning sands of ancient Makkah, an old woman stands tall, chained, yet unbroken. Her eyes are filled with tears, not of fear, but of faith. A spear glimmers in the sunlight. Her lips whisper a single word that shakes the desert. Allah. This is the story of Hazrat Sumayyah, bint Khabbāt radiallahu, the first woman and the first believer to give her life for Islam. A story of courage, of faith, and of a legacy that still lights our hearts today. 14 centuries ago, Makkah was a city ruled by pride and idolatry. The Khabbāt, built for the worship of one God, stood surrounded by 360 idols. People bowed to stone and gold, but hearts were empty. Women were treated as objects, slaves were beaten, and truth was silenced by fear. It was into this world of ignorance and oppression that a message descended, a call to return to the one Creator, Allah. Among those who first heard this call was a woman whose name history would never forget, Sumayyah radiallahu. Sumayyah bint Khabbāt was once a slave woman in Makkah. She served the noble Makhzum tribe and was later freed. She married Yasir ibn Amir, a traveler from Yemen who settled in Makkah together. They had a son, Ammar ibn Yasir radiallahu. They lived a simple life, no wealth, no power, but a home filled with honesty and peace. When the message of Islam began to spread secretly, Yasir's family were among the very first to accept it. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, himself would visit their home often, finding warmth and faith in their hearts. They were unknown to the world, but known to the heavens. When the Quraysh learned that slaves and weak men and women were accepting Islam, their pride turned into fury. "How dare these people abandon our gods?" they shouted. The punishment was brutal. Men were whipped until their backs bled. Women were dragged across the sand, chains cut into flesh. Among those tortured was Sumayyah radiallahu, her husband Yasir radiallahu, and their son Ammar radiallahu. They were taken to the blazing desert at noon. Their bodies were tied to spears, their skin burned by the scorching stones. Yet they refused to deny their Lord. The Prophet, peace be upon him, would pass by and with a heavy heart say, "Patience, O family of Yasir, indeed, your place is in Jannah." Among their tormentors stood one of the most arrogant men of Makkah, Abu Jahl. He hated Islam more than anything else. He took pleasure in seeing believers suffer. He would mock Sumayyah radiallahu. "Old woman, deny Muhammad, proclaim our idols, and I'll set you free." But she looked him in the eye and said, "You may own my body, but my soul belongs to Allah." Her words pierced deeper than any sword. Abu Jahl's face darkened with rage. He ordered her to be beaten, dragged by ropes, humiliated before the crowd. Yet she neither cried nor begged. She simply whispered, "Ahad, Ahad." The same cry Bilal radiallahu would later repeat, "One God, one God." Days turned into weeks, but Sumayyah's faith did not waver. Her body weakened, yet her soul grew stronger. Abu Jahl could no longer bear the sight of her courage. One day, under the blazing sun, he walked toward her with his spear. He shouted again, "Will you deny Muhammad now, old woman?" And she replied with calmness that shook his arrogance, "No. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his messenger." Abu Jahl screamed in rage and thrust his spear through her body. the desert went silent. The first blood of faith had been spilled. Hazrat Sumayyah bint Khabbāt, radiallahu, had become Islam's first martyr. When the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, heard the news, tears filled his blessed eyes. He raised his hands and said, "O Allah, forgive the family of Yasir. Their promised place is in Jannah." That moment marked the birth of a legacy written not with ink, but with blood and unshakable belief. From that day on, every drop of sweat, every tear, every act of faith carried the memory of Sumayyah, radiallahu. Her son Ammar, radiallahu, continued her mission. He lived to see the rise of Islam, fighting beside the Prophet, peace be upon him, in battles, carrying the same courage his mother had shown. Today her name echoes in every heart that believes. She was not a queen, not wealthy, not powerful in the eyes of the world, yet she changed history because faith does not need power. Faith is power. Her story reminds us that the foundation of Islam was built upon the sacrifices of those who had nothing except love for Allah. While others bowed to idols of stone, she bowed only to the Lord of the heavens. While others lived in fear, she died in peace. Every time you say La ilaha illallah, remember Sumayyah, radiallahu. Remember that this declaration once cost a life. Her courage is a light that never fades, a reminder that truth is worth every pain, and faith is worth every sacrifice. In our modern world, courage is often measured by fame or victory. But true courage, the courage of Sumayyah, radiallahu, is the strength to stay firm when the world stands against you. She did not fight with weapons. She fought with belief. She did not live long enough to see Islam flourish, but she became the seed from which faith blossomed across the earth. Even the mighty Abu Jahl, with all his cruelty, could not erase her name. For centuries, Muslims whisper it with love, Sumayyah, radiallahu, the first martyr of Islam. Her life asks us, what are we willing to stand for? When the world tests your faith, will you remember Sumayyah? When truth becomes difficult, will you whisper as she did, Ahad, Ahad? Jannah welcomed her with angels singing her name. Her soul was lifted from the dust of Makkah to the gardens of eternity. She walked where no pain exists, where no tyrant can reach there. She was greeted by the mercy of Allah, for whom she gave her life. And to this day, every believer who faces hardship carries a spark of her strength. If you ever feel weak in faith, remember the woman who stood strong under the blazing sun. If you ever fear to speak truth, remember the voice that refused to be silenced. If you ever doubt your worth, remember the slave woman whose name is honored by kings. Her story is not ancient history. It is a living heartbeat in every believer. And as we end this story, close your eyes for a moment and whisper her name with love. Sumayyah, radiallahu, the first martyr of Islam. May Allah be pleased with her, and may we all have a fraction of her faith. If this story touched your heart,